Well, it's good to see all of you people. It is a Monday night, so why wouldn't you be here? This is Brad Stein Has Issues, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide. In a cacophony of clarity, I am God's comic, Brad Stein, and it is a special episode. They all are. They're all very special. But our particular guest that we have on tonight is somebody that kind of harkens me back to my life when I was a youngin'. And I do use the word youngin'. I didn't used to. Remember, I was born in Indiana, which is a free state and a Midwestern state. Then I moved and lived in Southern California for most of my life. But now that I'm in the South, I live in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. Youngin' is what I use. And so we have a hearkening back to my younginness. And when I was a young boy, I used to watch TV. That was the only thing we had. Didn't have cell phones. And guess what I watch? The Brady Bunch. Well, one of that bunch has decided to adorn the screen with us. Her name, Susan Olsen. Her role, Cindy Brady, or the youngest one in Curls. If you're a baby boomer or have watched the reruns, you know exactly what I'm referencing. And if you don't, you have no idea what I'm referencing. If you are brand new to Brad Stein Has Issues, we do like to have great guests, interesting guests, eclectic guests. We try to find truth, insights, wisdom, try to see who they're like. And if they disagree with me, we try to see if we can agree to disagree agreeably. If you're one of the old regulars, God bless you. Thanks for showing up, you guys. We love you. We can't live without you. We can't survive without you. Wyatt, you are here too. Wyatt Stein is my son. He didn't used to exist. Then I made him out of whole cloth. And so he's now here, and he's part of this experience. You can call him my producer, my director, my sidekick. I simply call him my son. And he calls himself what?
Well, I mean, I could go on and on about the etymology of my name. However, I do believe it speaks for itself.
Okay. Wyatt, you know what that means?
Oh, I thought you meant the other one.
Which other one?
Loin boy.
Oh, yeah. Well, you are a loin boy.
I mean, heck, I'm wearing the shirt, dude.
Yeah, that's right. You know who made that shirt?
Ashley Haas.
She is so sweet, good old Ashley Haas. She plays piano, by the way. I don't know if you know that or not. And she's in theater. And she makes her own butter. But a lot of people don't do that anymore. But she's Amish or half Amish or part Amish, or at least she identifies as an Amish woman, which is why you often find her on the street with her hair in a bun. Wyatt, what is it about life that makes us long for our youth? Do you ever wake up, son, and think about what it was like when you were a young kid and kind of think those were the days? Do you think like that? Do you? I mean, you're not that old. You're 29, but son, I'm older than you, and I'm a baby boomer. So I was my young age. I was in the 60s. I was alive. So, and that's when I was a little kid, tiny boy. But I think of those days little by little and how innocent they seemed and how sweet. I was in a tiny town, Bremen, Indiana. That's where I was born and raised at that point until we moved to California in '69. So, my really growing up years for the most part that I can remember was in Southern California. But I remember being a little kid, tiny little kid in this little tiny, two stoplight town for real. Maybe a couple thousand people live there, maybe. Bremen, Indiana, and I grew up there, and there was a train track. We would go to the train track. We'd take coins and put them on. My cousin Kirk is the one that taught me this. You put coins on the track, and then we would sort of slide down the side and watch the train go past us. Very dangerous, very foolish, but we're kids, so you can't get hurt. I don't know if you know this, Roy. When you're a young kid, you can't get hurt. Nothing can go wrong. You can just hang out of buildings. You can sit 3 feet away from a railroad track, train smashing through. Then you'd go get the coins and they'd be just flattened, Wyatt. Now, they have machines like at Disneyland that you can crank it and it'll flatten your coin and then print it with something. But we just flattened them. And we loved that idea. Wyatt, that was a world that I remember. And of course, I don't remember every aspect of being a little kid. I'm talking about 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. But what I do remember, the bits and pieces that still linger in my mind that allows me to instantly transport myself to that childhood time, seemed, you didn't sit and analyze it, but it seemed innocent. It seemed it was enough. It was enough. We weren't rich. We went to the lake on the weekends for the weekend as a getaway. It wasn't our lake. I'm just saying we went to a lake and brought blankets and towels and picnic and swam in the lake, Wyatt. So I think of those days fondly, and I'm just curious, do you think of your young youth and long for it? Do you think of those times and go, those were great times? Do you not think of them at all, Wyatt? Or are you thinking even right now?
Every single moment of my life for the past 15 years,
What?
I think about it.
What?
All of the days lost.
Really?
All the summer breezes I will never see again.
Oh, Wyatt.
All the snow days that
So
are
you could see
absolutely
breezes.
not
See, now,
happening.
I didn't know that about you. You could see breezes. That's unique.
No, only in the ocean. That's why they call them sea breezes.
Okay. But I felt breezes, loved the breeze, but I never saw them. But you said you could see the breezes, and that's interesting.
Yeah, you were looking at ocean breezes, sea breezes.
Okay, I see.
So you were looking at the wrong thing.
I see.
Do you?
No.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about, and I never know if you're joking any more than you know if I'm joking with you. But tell me about your life as a little kid. Do you remember it? I mean, of course you remember it, but I mean, do you ever think about it fondly? Do you ever kind of just felt like those were some special days when I'm just a little kid and everything was great and every you didn't know anything wrong could happen down the road, that evil was out there or that people could die. You're just innocent when you're a kid. Do you ever think of those times, son, or have they just completely blanked in your memory because of trauma?
There was never a moment quite like waking up at the brisk old 6 a.m., getting ready for school, and looking out thy window and seeing a blanket, a soft veneer of white, only to turn on the news and see those magical words. School cancel.
Yes. Oh, you were just hoping because they'd show all the counties and they'd say like, Robinson County and Joe's County. You're like, please, Williamson County. Please, Williamson County, please.
I remember when they wouldn't even say the names on the news. They'd just be like on a banner at the bottom of the screen, slowly crawling each school in like alphabetical order,
Yes,
and whether or not they're open or closed. So you see the first letter of your school, and you're anticipating, and then it keeps going.
Yeah.
At this point, you've confirmed that's your school, and now it's time to see. Oh, though this delayed.
Oh, dang it. Okay, so it wouldn't say closed, it'd say delayed. Like
Delayed. There was nothing worse than the dreaded delayed.
That's true indeed,
I reminisce on this for one reason only. I am likely the last generation who will ever get to experience that.
Why is that?
Because nowadays we have technology.
Yeah.
Including the most devious technology a school person could ever dread. Online learning.
Yeah, so you're saying that like if you get snowed out nowadays, the kids
It just moves online.
How do you do that?
How did it work during COVID?
You're saying that every teacher suddenly has a camera now in their class and they can just go to online immediately?
No. The teachers don't go into class. They are at home too. Oh. Yeah.
So everybody's doing it all, like you do a Zoom meeting off of your teacher's Zoom link.
Yes.
And they teach you.
Well, I mean, at this point, because Zoom is so prevalent, it's kind of been written into the curriculum that if there was a snow day, you just do Zoom.
Wow. Well, at least you're in your pajamas, and it probably doesn't last as long. Is it? Or
no, it should be.
It's like a total normal day.
Yeah, should be, yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that. That is kind of, that's the double-edged sword of technology, son.
That is a double-edged sword, and both edges are pointed straight at your face.
They are, and they hurt, and they slash, and they crush.
Sting.
Oh, ouch. I didn't get any of that. We did have, I'm trying to think if we ever had snow days when I was a little kid. I don't think we did.
Well,
By the way, I literally did walk to school in the snow.
Well, yeah, you lived in Indiana, where snow is like a national currency.
What are you getting at?
Look, if you see a snowflake in Texas, the state shuts down.
Yeah, no, that's true.
If there's less than 50 feet of snow in Canada, it's considered a light breeze.
Well, listen, it's in Tennessee too, and the reason because they don't get it as often. It's not as usually as detrimental, as thick, as notorious
And
as you're going to get in the Midwest. So they have tons of salt trucks that they can immediately send out there and start tossing salt, melting everything. I'm going to be with St. Nick in Minneapolis next month, and Minneapolis gets tons of snow, clearly. But here's the thing: snow towns, snow cities, snow states have, hundreds of snow trucks. They have to be ready because it's the only way they can survive. And they're immediately, when it starts snowing, they're out there with snow plows, pushing the snow to the sides, and then just dropping salt. I remember once when I was on the road traveling, I might have been during a college tour, but I was in Minnesota anyways. And I remember it was January, so tons of snow, thick, thick, thick. And there was like a blizzardy thing. Well, here's the thing, and I don't understand this, but I have traveled and driven for years and years and years by car in many of my shows, because when I first started in the business, I've told you guys a story when I was in a van with two other comics, Craig Anton, Emery. You can look them both up. It would snow or what, you had to get through it. You just figured it out. I mean, I was idiot. So you weren't afraid of it. You just had to maybe be careful, drive slower, try to figure it out. And, thank God we never had anywhere where we needed chains or anything. But sometimes that's something you had to do, put chains on. Literally, in the mountainy areas, it's like you got to put these on to get through. So I'm used to it. And so I remember waking up, it was a really snowy, wintry evening in Minneapolis, which is people driving in snow every winter, all day long. You would think they should have it down. They should have it down. Well, I get through it. I see some, people that aren't being able to handle it. I finally get to my hotel. I forget about it. Wake up the next day. It's gotten warm out, kind of good. I get back on the road to go to my gig, and there had to be, I don't know how many cars in the ditch. I mean, just ditch, buried, gone. The people have left, right? It's Minnesota. They're all Minnesota plates, I might add. So it's all the locals that I don't know if they're just stupid and think that they can just drive it. I'm a local, so this doesn't affect me. I'm going to go my normal speed. I don't have to adjust. But next thing you know, they're in the ditch. And once you're in the ditch, you can't get out. You got to have a snowplow thing to pull you out with a winch or whatever. So I just remember thinking, I made it. I didn't wreck. It didn't end up in the ditch. And I'm the guest. I'm the guy from California that's off making this trek. So I don't know if it's just people take it for granted like they do here where it rains and there's always going to be a wreck because people just act like this doesn't change anything. Matter of fact, they get angry if people are slowing down. It's like, oh, what the heck? I'm going to take advantage and go doubly fast. I'm really going to get somewhere because everybody else is slow. And inevitably, they make a wreck. And here's what's also a weird thing, White. Have you ever been behind on the freeway and it's backed up because you know there's a wreck? And your first thought isn't, oh, Lord, I pray for the people that in this wreck. I hope there were no children. I hope there were no adults injured. I hope no one was killed and their family having to hear this horrifying news of something that nobody suspects. No, your first thing is, oh, crap. Wreck. Come on.
No, that's not me at all.
Oh.
My first thought is, oh no, is the car okay? Because think about it. That car was built in a factory for the one purpose of not being in pieces. Mm-hmm. Goes out on the road.
Yeah.
Crashes, burns. The people, probably fine. Car's totaled, even if it's a minor fender battle. And then what? They just crush it into a cube and then just toss it aside?
If it's totaled.
Yeah. But what
it.
exactly is the threshold for totaled again?
When when the cost to fix it is more than it's worth.
Have you seen the kind of damage that qualifies as totaled? Mm-hmm. Like scratches sometimes, if it's a fancy enough car. It's ridiculous. Cars need to be treated better. Okay. They are like horses without the need to clean up the poop.
So you're saying that cars are for all intents and purposes, poopless horses.
Why do you think they measure the performance in horsepower?
Do you, and I'd never know, son, if you're laughing and joking and being sarcastic or sardonic or ironic or whatever, and that's fine. That's part of the charm of Brad Stein Has Issues. They love the interplay between father and son, elder statesman, young greenhorn, still wet behind the ears, still in and up in the ditch in Minnesota, whereas dad goes forward and accomplishes whatever he needs to do. But I did wonder if you really ever thought about being a kid and the things about being a kid. Like when I was growing up, son, I remember big wheels. Now, I don't know. You probably had a big wheel. Maybe they still make them. I don't know. But what they were little plastic things like you'd think for a kid. Big giant wheel, front wheel with just two pedals. And you just did that and the wheel would spin. And then it kind of went down. There was a little seat, tiny wheels. And you could just go. But it was fun. You could crash into people. I remember taking them to a park we had with a big steep sidewalk. And we would get at the top, spin it so that it was this way instead of that way, and stand on the back and just go down full speed and just slide into it, drifting and things like that. It was so fun. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers. We didn't have Game Boys. We didn't have any kind of computer games. We didn't have GPS. We didn't have we had 3 channels on the television, so whatever they chose to make as part of the lineup, we had to deal with. If you wanted cartoons, they would be on Saturdays. Saturday morning, you'd get up, and I think they started maybe at 6 or 7, and you watch the cartoons. And Wyatt, it was so simple. Of course, you don't know any different. You don't know any different. This is all you know, is that this is how life works, and it's simple. I'm just asking you, and give me a straight answer for a second, then you can go back and talk about poop. What do you think of, or do you think about being a little kid? And if so, what are some of the memories that you hearken back to?
I just remember waking up more or less whenever I wanted to. Just, eating basically whatever I wanted to, despite my parents' objections.
Yes.
And just sort of living life thinking that tomorrow was just going to be like today.
But I mean, do you remember any television programs you liked? Do you remember any songs maybe you listened to? Do you remember any games? Nothing sounds like I used to love blah, blah, blah. You don't have anything like that?
My first time playing Nintendo games when I was young enough for them to be challenging, but not,
And you do remember that fondly and how amazing that was?
I remember when I 100% completed that final level in Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Which one?
The perfect run that took me like a month.
That was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I
will never forget that moment.
Wyatt, I give you so much credit because that is so ridiculous. But you weren't a young boy then. You were in your teens at least.
Really?
You had to be.
You underestimate me.
When was it?
I don't know.
No,
but I also have fond memories of playing other games and trying to pantomime all the moves the guys do because it was so cool.
Like what?
There was one game. It's an RPG, and the main character had a cartoon glove hand mech on his back that would just pantomime his every move. And he did stuff like backflip, punch the ground, and slap people. And it was just so fun to just emulate that.
What was the name of the game?
Evolution Worlds.
Okay.
It was a compilation of 2 games.
Well,
I can get into the whole thing, but we're not.
Well, I recall doing that. I recall my friend in the 60s in Bremen. Well, I would go to his house, and he would sneak into his parents'. They had a shelf, and there was a jar full of silver dollars. Like real silver dollars, silver. So from the 18 or early 19. He'd steal one or two, and we'd go to the store and buy candy, and he'd pay with a silver dollar. Now, I don't know. Now this is what's kind of weird, Wyatt, because again, it just shows how youth and our times are framed differently. But it's not like it was totally weird that you could pay with a silver dollar back then in the 60s because people carried change. And I could, if I had 2 pennies in my pocket, I could go into the drugstore and buy a licorice for 1 penny, or a pretzel, big long pretzel rod for a penny, or if there was a couple, or gum for a penny. And so you could actually get a couple, you're hungry, get a couple pieces of licorice for 2 cents. It existed. So it wasn't like crazy that you would pay with a silver dollar, maybe not one from 1903. But we would go, and I don't know how many times we did that till one day. This is a small town, everybody knows everybody. One day, the guy at the counter called up the mom and said, "Do you know your son's buying stuff with like mint, vintage silver dollars?" I didn't see him for a while after that. Never really got the full lowdown on it. I just know that lobotomies are effective.
I mean, I hear you can buy them for $1 silver. So.
For a silver dollar. Well, early silver. They have to be worth, worth a lot
back from like the 60s, of course.
But I wonder if you remember being a kid, thinking like a kid, talking like a kid. It's hard to remember the innocence of it and the naivete of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. Like,
let's try an experiment. Can we?
Okay.
Okay, here's the experiment. So I have 5 grandchildren, 4 grandsons, and 1 granddaughter. You have 5 nieces and nephews, 4 nephews, 1 niece. Okay, one of my grandson's name is Asa, and Asa is going to turn on the 13th, I believe, of this month, so soon. He's going to turn 6. So I remember being 6. And I was thinking to myself, how did they, let's see if we can remember the way they see things, the way they talk about things, the way they view things. So here's what I want to try. Asa, are you out there? Yeah. Come on over here, will you? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to bring Asa on. He's about to turn 6. Can you put those on?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we hear him good? Can you get up close to here, buddy? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is my grandson, Asa. And how old, Asa, are you going to turn?
6.
Okay, now, what was it like being 5?
I don't really know.
Can you remember anything you learned when you were 5 that you didn't know when you were 4? Wyatt, he's about as quick on the draw as you. I asked him a question like, can you think of anything you knew at 5 and 4? And he just sits there and goes,
Oh, I know.
What is it?
Like when I did something fun, mom told me to stop, and I didn't really listen.
And then what happened?
Spanking.
Spanking! Okay, how about, did you learn to ride a bike?
From you.
When did you learn, though? How old were you?
5.
Okay, so that was this year. This summer is when you learned to ride a bike. Now, you used to be scared of riding bikes, and then Grandpa made you have to learn, and you did. And then, do you like riding bikes or not like riding bikes?
Love it.
Okay, so what did it teach you about doing things that you don't feel like doing, but you do it anyways? What does that teach you?
About Jesus.
About Jesus. Now, that was not inculcated into him to say that. He just said that out of the blue. But it does kind of help us see what I'm talking about when it comes to kids. A lot of abstract thought, a lot of out of context. It's beautiful. Jesus is the game changer. He is the greatest, most unique and influential and famous human of human history. So certainly nothing wrong with throwing him in. But had nothing to do with riding a bike. There's no reason for that. So that's what I'm getting at. Why? Do you have any questions for Asa?
Sorry, I'm just pausing for the appropriate amount of time to make your previous point make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, Asa.
Yeah.
Have you ever in your life had a snow day?
Yeah.
What's
Really? What was it like? Was there snow?
Yeah.
Ooh.
It felt like there was a snowman.
Did you make anything in the snow? What'd you make?
Igloo.
You made an igloo? Was it OSHA compliant?
Yeah.
Was it pretty or ugly? Because nobody wants an ugly igloo.
Or was it pretty ugly?
Kind of dirty.
Dirty. So you
Right.
had a dirty, ugly igloo or a dirty, attractive igloo?
A dirty, attractive.
So tell me, what's your favorite story that you've ever heard somebody talk to you about? Can you tell me a story that you like? Don't have to tell me the whole story. Just what do you can you think of a book you liked a lot? Okay, so that's called dead air. And when you have dead air, you either ponder it as though there's some depth being discovered here, or you think, oh, he's doing a Wyatt. So let me ask you this. What is your favorite memory about being a kid? What's your favorite memory?
Playing
Playing what? What's your favorite thing to play?
tag.
Playing tag. So life is simple. You just play tag. You learn to ride a bike. You make an ugly igloo, a dirty, ugly igloo.
Hey, Asa, I got a question for you.
What is it?
If you could relive any day of your life, which one would it be?
If you could do it again, some like one of your favorite days, and you could do it again, what would it be? What did happen that made you say, "Oh, I wish I could do that again"?
Fireworks.
Fireworks.
Which year? Was it this one that we just had? Or was it the one?
The one where you
before?
had the spark ignite into the box and blow
Yeah,
up?
that
almost-
one.
Yeah.
Or
No.
was it the one where the tube tipped over and shot at us and almost blew us up?
We're not good with fireworks.
Yeah,
first.
honestly,
No.
I'm surprised.
It was the one if that you got that had the guy that shoots out.
Oh yeah, I think that was last year.
So here's what I want to tell you, Asa. I just wanted to get people to see how 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds, soon to be 6-year-olds talk, think. It's kind of see how they don't really have a lot of depth. So here I was at 6 trying to remember things, and some things pop out, but some things don't. And it is like life is just simpler. So what is before you leave? I got to ask you, what is the greatest thing about your mom?
She brings us to a fun place.
She brings you to a fun place. What's your favorite thing about your dad?
He mostly lets us play the Switch.
Mostly let you play the Switch. What's your favorite thing about Uncle Wyatt? Yeah, nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah, that's
Nothing.
right.
Because he lets us play the Switch too.
Oh, okay.
I see.
And what is, and this is the most important question of all, what is your favorite thing about Grandpa?
Because he gives me gum.
He gives you gum. Well, folks, this is my grandson, Asa. He's 5 going on 6. His birthday will be soon. Wish him a happy birthday. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Asa.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, buddy. Now, listen, here's what it was an experiment. I wanted to see if we would end up with some of that art link letter kind of funny, kids say the darndest things stuff. And I didn't really find any funny yet in that space, but it did show me the simplicity of being 5, how simple it is, how basic it is. You don't got anything else to think about. You don't have to worry about going to work. Don't have to worry about making money. Everything's given to you. Everything's provided for you. Everything is, you assume is going to be there. Now, isn't it interesting that God said, I want you to come to me like a child? Now, sometimes people, especially atheists, see that as a sense that to come to God means it's an immaturity. It's an infantilism of the adult, that to believe in God is to believe in the Santa Claus. They always make references to childlike beings, Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, or they make the mockery beings, this flying spaghetti monster. And it's always a sense that there's something innately, I guess, inferior to being a kid. There's something wrong with being a kid. There's something that it doesn't deserve maybe as much value. I mean, of course, they're cute. Of course, we love them. Of course, we watch over them. Of course, we take care of them. But there is definitely a sense, especially to the atheist, that the child isn't as important. Because remember, these are the ones that, for the most part, kill babies. They don't care about the child in the womb. So if you can do that, then clearly your philosophy, even if you're not self-aware of it, is pretty dystopian. It's pretty dark when you believe that an unborn human doesn't deserve life. You're pretty dark when you think a little kid can't think or can't reason or can't find beauty and joy in the most simplistic way. And that, I think, is what God is saying when he says, come to me like a child. It's not a jettisoning of your intellect. Matter of fact, you have to use your intellect to do anything. Even to disagree with God, you have to use intellect. To agree with God, you have to use intellect. We're all using our intellect to try to discover the deeper things. Even if we're young and don't have enough depth to really tease it apart, you still are thinking about it, and maybe God's very simple to you. But that's, I guess, what I was trying to discover is your youth, your youngness. It's special because it's the only time in your life you're innocent. The only time in your life you're innocent. There comes a point where you're kind of aware of good and bad, sin and non-sin, evil and good. And so you're responsible at that point. That's what our faith teaches us. There does come a responsibility moment where now you are responsible for your sins, for your decisions, because you can differentiate between good and evil. Matter of fact, at the garden, it's like he said, don't eat from the tree of good and evil, because once you know the difference, there's no innocence. Innocence is lost. Then you'll be responsible for it. And here's what's interesting. Atheists get angry. One of the greatest motivations to atheism is pain. And why would evil happen to a little kid? That's funny. Suddenly they care about the kid. Now, why would a little kid get cancer, right? But what's interesting is that they want autonomy, right? They want the freedom to discover or think about whether God exists or not. But what if God said, well, I'm here, and you can either enjoy that experience or you can know the difference between good and evil. Well, suddenly you will be kind of on your own, and you'll have to return to me to get somewhere. You will have to embrace me to get somewhere. You will have to bow the knee to me now, whereas before it was more I don't want to say instinctual. I think it was more natural because there was no options. I'm with God. I literally can be in his presence. It's the only time I guess we could see God. And it says he walked through the garden. I don't know if that was, I guess he's a spirit, so perhaps he did it that way. But somehow they were aware of him, and they could sense him, and he could see them and sense them. And it was very intimate and very connected. And then suddenly at the fall, it's like I have to distance myself because you're no longer holy. And I can only be amongst holiness. And so he gave us this freedom, this knowledge of good and evil, and we chose to accept that challenge. To expose ourselves to the consequences that will now come upon us because we can make choices, and we may just not make the choices that are given to the Creator, but might make the ones that we want because they feel good to us. And so there's all these things at stake. And I was just realizing that being a kid and coming to God like a child is more about returning to innocence. It's more about returning to, there's so many mysterious things about God. If you're an atheist, if you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, if you're a polytheist, there's the mysteries of God by far outweigh the understandings, and they would have to. If God knows everything, can do anything, then clearly what we know might be this much. If you're the smartest man ever, we might know this much compared to what is yet to be known. Well, that's what God knows. So it's almost like, how can we even get close to him? How can we even get close enough to God's thought process to understand things, the nuances of life in every second, every moment we speak and talk and move and act and make choices? Also have some effect with our wife and our husbands and our loved ones and our children and our babies and our grandsons and our neighbors and our enemies and another country and another culture. Everything is connected and tied in, and God has to navigate that. And he doesn't sit there and rend his hands. How do I do this? He's God, so he knows how to do it, and he has the power to do it. If you think of God properly, he can do anything. And he's everywhere simultaneously, so he's able to see everybody. But somehow it all makes sense. It all goes the direction that's supposed to go. And this is all tied in with us having the freedom to choose. So he has to also be prepared to know how to help us continue to move forward to where we're destined to go, knowing that we might choose many different choices on each moment. And he it's like these maybe infinite amount of choices we can make. And God has to know what every single one of those choices might be, but then we get to choose which one we're going to land on, and then he takes it from there. So the mysteries of God, the difficulties of God are beyond belief. But also there's moments of simplicity, of peace, of just resting in, how about I just be a kid again? How about I sit here like a little 5-year-old and say, yeah, I like gum. Yeah, I learned to ride a bike. Yes, I like playing the Switch. Just simple. It's enough just to be here. It's enough. And I trust my uncle. I trust my dad. I trust my mom. I trust my grandpa. I trust my family. How about maybe what God is saying to the human adult is, I trust God. I talked about being a kid, because even though most of my moments of being a child are probably still in here, but I don't know how to access them, there are moments, of course, that I do, just like I'm sure many of you thought about going back to being childhood and some of the memories that you have. But one of those memories for me was television. You see, I grew up in the 60s. Television, I think, really hit hard in the 50s. And then it got better and better. And eventually color showed up, I think like 66 or something. But I would watch television, and there was a show on TV that was started maybe in 69, 69 maybe, but it made it into the 70s, maybe to 72, 73. I don't remember exactly. 5 years, I think. But it was a show that everybody has referenced, everybody has seen, everybody has known if they're at least over 40. But there's reruns still going, so even the younger person could stumble upon it. But this show was so iconic that even its opening sequence had a song. Wyatt, do you know the Brady Bunch song by any chance? Do you know how it goes?
Absolutely not.
Okay, here's the story of a lovely lady who was bringing up 3 very lovely girls. All of them had hair of gold, like their mother, the youngest one in curls. It's the story of a man named Brady who was busy with 3 boys of his own. They were 4 men living all together, but they were all alone, till the one day when the lady met this fellow, and they knew that it was much more than a hunch, that this group must somehow form a family. That's the way they all became the Brady Bunch, the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch. I can't believe I remember this entire song. That's the way they became the Brady Bunch. Wyatt, that was the entire theme song. The whole time, the mom showed up in a little box. Maybe the dad was up here, the mom was in a box, and there were 3 kid boxes on the sides, and they were all looking at each other, all framed together. And that was the Brady Bunch. You have seen, even at your age, sort of mimicry and what do you call it? Like that mimicked and replayed many times in funny ways of the Brady Bunch, idea where there's boxes and everybody's looking at each other and whatever. And it was a story of a man whose wife had died, I guess, and maybe the woman has probably they both had dead husband and wife. Probably they both died at 60s. They probably didn't say they were divorced. They died. And they got back together, and they showed how you can blend this family, and they just fits in seamlessly. And for all of us who were come from divorce and suffered from it, in some weird way, it was like maybe it's possible that you can get along and you all can have a different dad and different mom, and somehow it works. And it doesn't. I mean, it can, but it's very difficult, and it's always traumatic and always broken. And this is at a time in place in America where getting divorced was very simple and easy. Everybody was doing it, and they acted like it wasn't going to be a big deal, and it was. And it helped destroy America, and especially the sacredness of marriage. But the Brady Bunch gave us a shot, a hope that maybe, just maybe, just maybe, there's a way that it can heal and you can go on and start a new family and it's just as good. Well, so the little girl, Cindy Brady, is who's with us tonight. Now, her name is Susan Olsen, and she's older now. Obviously, she's grown up. And yet, I stumbled upon something of her and Sherry Curry, who we had on from the Runaways, and they were friends. And I saw them talking about they're both conservative, and it's like this is crazy because certainly the Runaways girl, was a very like sex, drugs, and rock and roll era. You'd think that she ain't going to be a conservative, and I mean staunch. And so, not that the Brady Bunch would give you any thoughts that they would not be maybe good old family all American, but that was many years ago. But I didn't know that Cindy was also conservative. And she talked about something that happened to her, that she had a radio show that got canceled. She got canceled because of her views. And so I thought, I want to talk to her because it's so funny how we stereotype and caricature what this person's going to be like as they get older. And of course we change and with time, and hopefully we grow and adapt to life and try to be as balanced as we can be. But I just said, I got to talk to her and just get her story and just get to know her. Sweet, sweet woman. And I grew up with her. And I'm sure she's heard that a million times. I grew up with the Brady Bunch, and I never knew, never thought, never imagined one day me and Cindy will have a conversation. Well, guess what? We did. And now you get to watch it. So, folks, enjoy this step back in memory lane as God's comic Brad Stein has an interview with Cindy Brady, or as she's actually known, Susan Olsen. Enjoy. Well, folks, if you've watched Brad Stein Has Issues, or you've seen my comedy, or you've seen what I've been up to over the years, you know that I am not a spring chicken. I am a baby boomer. And that's actually significant when it comes to this next guest, because I, as everybody my age who was from the United States, grew up watching a particular television show that you couldn't escape because it was really good and really popular. But we're not going to just talk about the television show, but we have to. There's no way to escape it because the person involved was one of the icons of the show. But we're also going to talk about other things that are equally important, and that's about her and her life. So please welcome someone that you might have thought of as Cindy Brady, even though I'm sure she's tired of being introduced that way. But what I'm much more interested in talking to, Susan Olsen, who's with us on Brad Stein Has Issues. Hello, young lady.
Hello. Glad to be here. And fortunately or unfortunately, my cat, whenever she hears that I'm doing a podcast, she insists on being part of it.
Well,
so I'm just going to take off her collar so she isn't thoroughly annoying.
Now, I couldn't quite see, but that's not a hairless cat, is it?
Oh, yes, she is. And I have another one that's hairless.
All right.
But she has hair, really strange hair. They're very different, weird creatures. I spent 20 years rescuing cats. Always wanted one. I can't go to a breeder, even if I wanted to spend that kind of money because I'm in rescue.
Yeah.
But I managed a breeder gave me two of these, and
they're kind of expensive,
so
aren't
weird.
Aren't the hairless cats pretty expensive?
Yes, very. That little girl I just showed you is probably worth. Well, I mean, now she's spayed, so she's worth $5.
Well, I always remembered, and it's funny because cat people do seem to be specific. In other words, I think if you like dogs, you might like cats, but it doesn't seem like it seems like cat people are very specifically cat people. Like that's what they love, and they just have a very particular affiliation for that. Now, you are obviously a fan of animals because when we started communicating, you were rescuing a raccoon, if I remember correctly. So clearly
Yes,
you'll take them all. But do you have a special affinity to cats, or that just
I
happened to
have
be?
a special affinity to opossums
Oh,
because
oh,
they're so maligned. No, actually, I was one of those little girls, and it just doesn't happen anymore because I teach children, and I never see it. But back in my day,
yeah.
there were little girls born with this strange affliction of being so in love with horses
Mm.
that they were like gods. We would scream when we saw them, like we were looking at rock stars. Um, as a person who went through this, it started at about age 5, and really, I didn't get over it until I was an adult and doing other things. But just the magic that these creatures held
Mm.
for us was just beyond description.
Yeah,
So unfortunately, I had a mother who was afraid of horses, and I had a contract to do a television show that said I could not engage in
right.
dangerous activities. So it wasn't until it was about a year after Brady Bunch ended that I started writing.
Well, I happen to have Ashley Bond on, one of my guests, who was an Olympic rider for Israel, though she is a
Yes.
Christian woman, but her father is Jewish, and so she ended up being one of the first equestrians for Israel, believe it or not, and chose to. She's American, but she chose to ride for them because they didn't have a
Yeah.
team. But anyway, Cindy Bond's her mom, who you may or may not know. She's a producer out there in LA, film producer. So that's why I just throwing that out since you're mentioning horses. But obviously, that's a high end, high end riding when you're doing equestrian stuff. That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, and we really couldn't afford it. Um,
Now, wait a minute. You were a famous actress. You were loaded. You didn't know
no.
what to do with all your money. You're still trying to deal with all the royalties that continually pour into your mailbox. So, what are you talking about? You couldn't afford a horse.
You just said the R word. Actually, for me, the R word is residuals.
Okay, that's
Allie Willis, a famous composer, musician, her R word was royalties, and
yeah.
both of us didn't get either. So that made us friends in um, poverty. No, she wasn't poor. I have been from time to time, but no, we don't get any money for
You don't get
the old
residuals.
show. No.
Well,
We
listen,
got we got residuals for the first 10 runs, but we've been very fortunate in that the show seems to never die. And so there have been, that's the other bad R word, reunions,
yes.
because most of them are ridiculous or really bad. But the
Well,
last one we did was very good. It was for HGTV, and we remodeled the home that was used for the exterior of the
oh yeah,
show.
yes, I think I saw that. Well, listen, I got to tell you something, and I want to really help you understand why I was interested in talking to you. First off, your friend Sherry Curry from the Runaways back in the day, I had interviewed her, and she intrigued me because I think, frankly, I came across an interview of the two of you, and you were discussing an issue that had happened to you a few years back, and it dealt with First Amendment rights and freedom, and that's something that's very important to me. So that was first intrigued me. But honestly, Susan, what was interesting to me, and this is where we're going to go eventually, is I guess stereotypes, because I think that when one looks at the entertainment business, musicians, certainly rock and roll type musicians, and or Hollywood, if we're going to make a broad brush, you think of a very specific philosophy, a very specific way they see the world. That is fairly common amongst them. And so when you feel like somebody has gone against the grain, like they seem to not be exactly what we assume all these Hollywood types. And again, like I said, clearly that's a caricature or a broad brush, but we do come to think of the Hollywood as left leaning, and obviously many are. And so when you see somebody that is of that ilk and has made a mark for themselves in that world and seems to be different. I just find it fascinating because it does show how, I don't know, how constrained humans can be based on how people perceive them in, and that we try to create, I guess, something that we want them to be, as opposed to letting them be an individual. So I was really very little interested in Cindy Brady and very interested in Susan Olsen because that's who you are and that's a life you've lived. But clearly, it is impossible and will always be impossible for you ever to have a conversation in your life that doesn't have something to do with the Brady Bunch because, my gosh, that was an iconic sitcom that has never died and never will. And so I guess I want to get into some of the elements of that because I'm sure it might be interesting to the folks, and I hope to find some angles that you haven't talked about 1,000 times. But let's just make it simple. Let's let you launch this. Okay, so being a cast member on the Brady Bunch, curse or blessing?
Um, Both, but I think that the blessing is a far deeper gift and a more important gift.
Hmm.
The curse is only really, aside from being a child and being famous, and fame is something. I teach acting to children. I keep trying to nail it into their heads. No, fame is not a goal. You do not want to be famous. Believe me, it's not fun.
Oh,
Um, so, that aside, that right there was a curse. And my father always considered the the family blessing that my grandmother put on us kids. He would jokingly refer to it as a curse. My grandmother actually believed that she prayed enough that all of the kids were discovered. And it is really freaky. If I ever stop being lazy and write my book, it's freaky. 4 kids and each one got discovered. Um, but so, childhood aside, um, it would only be a curse if I was trying to pursue acting, which I stopped doing when I was 23. I can totally understand where Eve and Maureen are coming from, particularly Eve, because the show did stereotype her.
yeah.
And it looked like she was breaking away. I mean, what could be more hopeful? She did Dawn, Portrait of a Teenage Runaway, and she was on her way to doing real stuff. And just I mean, I suffered through enough until I got to the age of 23 and realized it wasn't worth it. That come to think of it, I actually don't like acting.
Yeah.
Um, but you go out, you audition for something, and always I would do the best if I was playing a drug addict or a murderer or something very dark, which of course I enjoyed very much. And I do well, and then it would come down to, oh, we just can't cast Cindy Brady in this
Yeah,
role.
yeah,
So, it's like if I'm going to have an acting career of doing nothing but Love Boat,
yeah,
no, thank you. No,
yeah.
at the time I was so jealous of my boyfriend, my long distance boyfriend, who would become my husband, because he was going to the San Francisco Art Institute, and I'd always been an artist, and I was like, God, I wish I was going to art school, but it never really dawned on me. I think that there was such a feeling of needing to prove that I could do something as an adult, that breaking that child actors never work again stigma. I did not realize, and it's too bad because I don't like to have regrets, and I don't believe in regrets, but I had the opportunity. I was accepted at USC. Why the heck didn't I go to film school? It
Hmm.
was what I wanted, but I didn't get it. So anyway,
Well,
oh
but
well.
Well, but I guess, this was one of the questions too that I knew that we'd wander into. And so we might as well go there because you kind of referenced it. It does seem to be much more challenging if you happen to hit it big as a kid because that you get stuck. I mean, you can't escape. And boy, that has to be a emotional trauma, frankly, because you're too young to know how to navigate the maturity of what's coming. I mean, you're given all these accolades and you're given money and you're given fame. You don't know what you're doing. You're 8 years old and he's like, I'm just a kid. Everybody tell me how great I am. And it must feel like, well, this is going to last forever. I guess this is how my life is now. I just get to walk in and into the set and they get paid and I get famous and sign an autograph and blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, well, I guess it's time to do the next guy, and next thing you know, you're stuck in this face that they've decided is Cindy Brady, and there ain't no way out of it. It'd be like being Gilligan. It'd be like being,
Yeah.
You can't get out of it. And
Yeah.
so there has been there has been the Jodie Fosters. There has been the Ron Howards, obviously. But boy, few and far between, almost like they have therapy sessions for child actors because they end up going sideways because of the trauma. I know one of the guys from the maybe 50s or 60s. I think he was the guy from the Donna Reed show.
Yes, Paul
Yeah,
Peterson.
he started like maybe counseling or something for.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's an organization called A Minor Concern, and it's very good. He did a really good thing. I used to resent him because he would talk so poorly about what it's like for a kid to be an actor, and he'd speak so um, mean about the parents.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You don't know my parents. My dad was constantly trying to get me out of the business.
Wow.
And my mother was constantly showing me how child actors don't go on and so that I wouldn't expect to be able to do it. But I think I was part of what kept me from going to film school was I wanted to be bigger than that. And just I think I wanted to just prove that I could, and then I probably would have left it anyway because it really wasn't what I like to do.
So you obviously did do some work prior to the Brady Bunch. I did your IMDb because I was trying to get an idea of, if I'd missed anything or if there was something else out there, and you did, and a little bit afterwards as well. So it's not like you didn't have an acting career of sorts that continued. But boy, did you just, I'm an actor, certainly didn't do something as big as you, but I've been in a number of films and so forth. So I know what a cold read is. I know what it's like to try to create this. I know how horrible it is to try to get to get booked on something and how challenging. And I think that to an actor who never really hit a home run like you did by getting on a major series, you figure guys like you can just, boy, it's smooth sailing from now on. But man, it isn't. And so, when did you kind of realize like, oh, this might actually be an anchor against my moving forward more than as opposed to, a rudder that's going to move me wherever I want to go. Uh-oh, maybe this is going to be a problem. When did you figure out this is going to stick with me the rest of my life?
Um, I kind of had that feeling. I suppose it really solidified when I went on an audition for a movie called Times Square,
Mm.
starring Tim Curry. And the role was a girl that wanted to be a musician. There were two female roles, and I auditioned for both of them. And one was a girl who wanted to be a musician. Believe it or not, my actual goal was to be in a band. It was to be a musician. It wasn't to continue with acting. But and I also knew that probably wasn't great because and this is so funny. my son said this to me when he was about 8, and because I had all these people saying, get him an agent. Oh, I want to use him in my show, blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, because I want to be a musician. Now, if I'm a musician, Mom, and I decide to go into acting, that's okay. But if I'm an actor and then I'm seen as a musician, that's not cool. And he's right. He's absolutely right about that. But I'm amazed at how wise my son is sometimes.
That actually is wise, Susan. I'll tell you why. It always when you see the guy Jack Black's, or I'm trying to think some of the
Johnny
other.
Depp is a perfect example
Yeah,
because he
but
didn't come out here to be an actor at all. He came out to be a musician, and nobody gives him credit for that.
if you get to know them as an actor first, I do think it's harder to go the other way because it feels
Yeah.
like it feels like a novelty. It feels like you're just cashing in on your fame. Whereas if you're a singer first, you can't deny that particular skill set. That's a performance art that stands or falls whether you got the goods or not. But once you're an actor, it always feels a little false. Like I'm faking. I'm a singer now because I'm an actor. I'm faking that I can do this or that. But the musicianship stands on its own. Chris Christopherson, right? Guys like that first showed I got this skill set and then
Yep.
went the other direction. So I think you're absolutely right. I think he was definitely uh, quite prescient in understanding what that is, but probably because his mom led the way and let him know, let me explain to you what happened to me, because if that's what you want, is that how you met Cherie Curry, was because she was in a band, or how did you all
Well,
become?
that's why I always wanted to meet her.
Oh,
But we met because our sons were in a band that was put together as they were going to do a show revolving around the game Rock Band. It was like Guitar Hero, but with drums and stuff. So it was going to be a game show competition. And they wanted to put together an exhibition band of kids from celebrities. So that's how Cherie and I met. My son was playing guitar in this fake rock band where they were playing the game Rock Band. Um, uh, Danny Bonaducci's daughter, Isabella, was a singer. Some producer's son was a drummer. Jake, Cherie's son, was the bass player. And my son was like playing with his teeth and behind his head. And I just wish to goodness I had a copy of that tape. But anyway, we were there because both of our sons were musicians. So that's how we met. But I always wanted to meet her. My sister got to see her at a frat party at USC. And I was jealous because I wanted to see the band. I was very, very fascinated by the fact that they were only like 16, they were all underage, and they were touring Japan. And Joan Jett had just graduated my high school when I entered. And we had the Runaways, the Bangles, and the Go Go's at the same time. And they were all Valley girls. So, like, I semi knew the Go Go's, I knew of the Bangles. And anyway, it was just, to me, it was so fascinating that that these young girls were doing it. Now, I never wanted to be in an all-girl band, though.
okay.
I didn't want to be one of these people.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the only girl in an all-male band.
So let me ask you this about just about your particular unique situation. And it is in that, you for good or bad, and I think clearly you appreciate what that series did for you. I mean, I'm guessing it was better than it
I
was.
appreciate more what it did for other people.
Okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. As far as
That's
people,
where I get my pride.
what you mean as far as people watching it and how it inspired or helped them, or you mean
Yes, people coming up to me and crying and saying, I don't think I'd be alive if it weren't for that show.
wow.
Yeah.
Now,
Knowing that psychiatrists use the show for their most troubled patients, because you would think Just like you would think I'd have it made after being on a hit TV show, or I'd be the coolest kid in school. No. You would think that kids that are coming from abusive households would hate the Brady Bunch. They would resent us to pieces. Not the case. Showing them the show gave them hope. So,
Yeah.
like every latchkey kid, too, every kid that wasn't abused, but they were just kind of lonely, would come home, turn on the Brady Bunch, and see the family that they wish they had. But it was a happy thing. As
Yeah.
Sebastian Bach said to me, and I don't know why, but it clicked in my head so clearly. So thank you, Bass. He goes, dude, you're a part of people's childhood and you're a good part. What could
Mhm.
ever be wrong with that? And I was
Wow.
like, dude, you're right.
Well, I gotta say, I can't. So I'm a baby boomer. So I,
Me too.
literally grew up, with that show, as anybody did. Of course, again, it was a different time. There was only three channels, so there wasn't a lot to choose from, and whatever the studios gave you was what you got to choose. But it still had to work, or people wouldn't have watched it. So it still was a hit because people liked it. I think it got panned in the beginning, but the
Oh,
audience
yeah.
said, yeah, the audience said, screw you guys, we like it, so good luck, but we're watching, and off you went. But I will say this: I came from divorce, and I knew I didn't think about it that much, but as I was kind of thinking about talking to you, um, I do kind of recall now that the thing that it did seem to illustrate was this mixed families. Now, honest, just to be blank, frank, I don't. Most mixed families, I don't think, work so seamlessly as the Brady Bunch. Usually, it's a train wreck because there's so much pain and there's so much loss that has come from divorce, or suddenly it's a new mom instead of your mom. So it's not just some
You're sharing with
back.
siblings that are
Yeah, it's
strangers.
terrible, but you guys made it feel like, no, this actually can be really good, and it can be very healthy, and it can be very good. And listen, nobody was trying to manipulate anything. You were just trying to tell a story about a particular family that happened to work in a particular way. Is it as simple and as clean as that? No. Life is very hard and messy and difficult. But so what? You're telling a story. I want to entertain you. I want to give you some hope for a second that maybe you can get through your life, and maybe you can get through your teens, and maybe you can get through your bullying, and maybe you can get through your concern and your confusion about not being popular. And you guys, even if it was a fantasy, let people feel like maybe there's something here that I can latch onto. And you just said they did. So the proof's in the pudding. You brought something to the table that I guarantee none of you guys thought you were doing when you were showing up and
Right.
filming that episode. You weren't something that, I wonder if we're changing the world. You were like just trying to, do the best you could, hit your mark, and remember your lines.
Well, I mean, I'll give myself some credit. I did pick up on some of it. Um, but I think for all of us, it was more like, well, we want to do something, we want something that's more like All in the Family. We want something that's critically acclaimed and yada yada. And of course, I spent years thinking of it as that stupid show I was on. And that it was actually when I heard that psychiatrists, child psychiatrists, were using it to help children, that I went, wait a minute, that's pretty cool. Um, but you hit on a great word, fantasy.
Mm.
It was a child's fantasy. It wasn't supposed to be realistic, and it wasn't supposed to be deep.
Yeah.
You give a simple answer for a simple problem, but the fantasy is Cindy's lost her stupid doll,
Yeah.
ugliest doll on earth. And the whole family is really upset.
Yeah.
Dad's calling home to
Yeah.
find out if they found the doll. The kids, create a mock jury, and this whole investigative team. And okay, no family's going to do that, but it was a fantasy. And
Yeah.
everybody's going, poor Cindy. We don't you worry, we're going to help you out with this. And the boys are helping, and this blended family is working together. And poor Bobby is being blamed for it. But anyway, I mean, it's a total fantasy, and that's great.
It is great.
It's
So,
also a total fantasy to know that your mother is at home. And I remember Florence really wanted Carol Brady to have a job. She wanted her to be doing something other than needlepoint. And I was like, no, no, no. Every kid really wants their mom to be at home while they're at school, just in case something terrible happens. You know that there's a mom or a dad at home. And so, yeah, Carol Brady is home doing needlepoint, and she has a maid.
mm, no, but good. Well, I'm kind of that's kind of interesting that you would even perceive that that because that is so true. Like I said, I mean, let's face it, entertainment industry, films, television, uh, the point of it is to make you forget the truth of your own pain. It's to give you a
Yeah,
second to
escapism.
pretend like for a second, maybe things aren't so bad, or at least I can survive. And that's what you guys can do, whether you like it or not. I just remember, it's funny to watch that and think about it at that time. And again, having gone through the trauma of divorce myself, it was just, it felt like maybe it could look like this someday too. And so, again, putting a lot of more onto it than it would had ever expected to do. But like you said, who cares? You did something good. So we are still here with Susan Olsen. Apparently, there is a Cindy Brady in there somewhere, but I still see Susan. And I want to talk to you, if you don't mind, about that, because the thing that's difficult for people who've not in the entertainment business to understand is that I think that people look at us like, I want to say like a commodity, but that sounds a little crude and I don't mean it like that. But I think they see us as
Too.
less than human. I think they see us as more as a,
I'd say furniture.
okay, maybe. Well, and I don't even, I'm not even trying to be, uh, 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 as though I don't mean that people are doing it maliciously, but what I'm
No,
saying
no.
is something happens. I don't know what it is to this day, because here's what's weird, Susan. If you live in some local little town in Iowa and you have the local carpet guy, hey, it's me, Joe, the carpet guy, and come on down and buy some carpet. And then you saw him walking down the street, there'd still be the sense of, it's Joe the carpet.
Yeah,
There's
right,
something
right.
weird about being on TV.
Hmm.
I don't know what it is, but when that person magically leaves the box and there they are, I don't know what happens to your brain, but it's like what do you it's like you're looking at a god or something,
Yeah,
or an angel. So I don't
I do it too.
what is it?
Believe me, when I met Malcolm McDowell, I
Mm,
just wanted to cry and wet myself.
yeah.
And he did something that I've done to fans where he's like, oh, come here, honey, come here. And gave me,
Yes.
yeah.
But but isn't that interesting that when you're on the other side of it, and I'm not, listen, I mean, you reached fame and maybe not as famous as you were. I don't know. You certainly are when you go to your reunions and everybody knows the Brady Bunch. But I've reached a certain amount as an actor, but mainly as a comic, all enough to know that the people that happen to be fans of mine, um, when they meet you for the first time, because usually they only saw you through video, like they saw you on YouTube or they saw you at a on television or they saw your show that way, and suddenly they get to see you live, and live is always better in any genre. Music is better live, acting is better, I think, live. It just is. There's something magical about it because it's flesh to flesh. I mean, you're really
Yeah.
seeing the soul of this person. But what's weird is those who, for whatever reason, are really big fans and they meet you and they're breathless. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to talk. They shake your hand. You say, thank you. I appreciate that. and you can tell they just want to remain in your presence. And it's so awkward for us because we're like, I'm just a regular, trust me, just a regular dude. I don't really know what else I can give you. I'm glad that you enjoyed what I gave you, certainly. And I don't want to diminish that. But there's nothing magical about me. I can't heal you. I don't know what else you want, but there's something they need from you. So I was curious, two things, and you answered how you will. A, what do you think that is when they see you as something more than just a regular person, but as the character? And B, what do you owe your fans? Do you owe them anything because of the way they perceive you, or do you think that's an unfair burden put on an actor because they happen to have chosen to give you a certain accolade that you never asked for?
Well, and especially, I mean, if we were still being paid for the reruns, it would be a little different. There'd be more incentive to be nice to keep people watching. But I'd have to say that my situation, all six of us from the show, um, our situation is a bit different. And I'll tell you how that was illustrated for me when we went after the show ended. We came back with this hideous variety hour, which was voted the fourth worst show in television history by TV Guide, and I participated in writing a book about it called "Love to Love You, Brady's." Anyway, it was a variety hour. It was really ridiculous. It's precious because it's so horrible. Um, but it was kind of popular because people wanted to see us again. And I watched my fame after the show ended. I saw my fame change a little more into people feeling like a friend.
Mm.
And rather than, oh, you're that thing that you're that piece of furniture, you're that thing that becomes part of our television set, which used to be a large piece of furniture. um, and would start becoming more like, oh gee, I really like that show, much more friendly. And then when the variety show came on the air, suddenly my new face, it's only a couple of years, but you change a lot as a kid, my new face is part of the furniture again.
Yeah.
And there was a complete change in how people came up to me. People came up to me like I was an object,
Mm.
not like I was a friend, but
Yeah.
like I was this thing.
Okay.
And that is the kind of celebrity experience that most actors get. And to me, I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. I was raised that way. There is no such thing as being better than human, better than a person. Some animals are better. There's nothing better than reality. This escape from reality is fake. It's not real. So to me, it's objectifying. So that kind of thing where people are looking and pointing and all that, that is objectifying. It doesn't feel good to me. It never did. I was never one to go, look at me, I can walk in the room. It always seemed like fool's gold. It was
Mm.
shiny, but it was not good. So now with all these years that have passed, and doing a few reunions and the HGTV show and all that, people come up and they are genuinely friends. They're
Mm.
not fans, they're friends. And we grew up together. And it is not weird at all. It's completely enjoyable. Sure, there are
Yeah.
times if we had big crowds at an autograph show or something where I'm just like, okay, enough of this. But for the most part, it feels like an honor. It's a blessing to have that much of a relationship with total strangers. And I think most of us see it that way, or at least me and the boys do.
Mm.
Mike Lookinland, like, he's just like, how nice is this that people are this kind to us, or that we had this positive influence in their lives.
I think that's kind of what I was trying to discover, though, from your end, because only you can, you're in a rarefied air. Not very few people have ever done what you've done. And like I said, you're not sitting there bragging. I happened to get cast and the thing happened to do what it did. And it's serendipity and I'm grateful for it, but it is what it is. But still, it's one of a kind. I mean, very few people get that. Very few there people have no
Yeah.
idea how many pilots are shot. People have no idea
Oh,
how
yeah.
many of these are not picked up. They have no idea when they are, how they're given 6 episodes and then they're gone. They have, and then they finally are picked up and given a full season, and then they happen to renew it. They have no idea how rare it is to get on some and it hits and it works, and to get on a hit, you know, a number one or top 10, it's just it's it's hitting the lottery if you were an actor that happened to do
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
And so
It would be today because you'd also be, it would be fame with fortune.
oh yeah, 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 right, 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 right. Well, so I want to go a few other angles on this, but what I'm really curious about, just because I don't think people would know this part, is what was it like to get there? I guess is what I'm getting at. Now you were very young. I don't know, 6 maybe or 7 or something when
Yeah, by the time the show got going, like when we were really filming the first season, I was 8, but I
8
was
years old.
playing a 5-year-old
Oh, okay.
because
Okay.
I was little.
Yeah. So, okay, so you were 8 years old, which is younger than 5, but older than a little kid, but still you're just a little kid. You're 8 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about how it worked as far as actually getting to become this thing that most of us will never experience. So obviously, you had an agent. The agent got the breakdown to say, "Hey, they're reading for a certain part." You went in, you auditioned, and I'm guessing you just read for with the casting director, not with Sherwood Schwartz. I'm guessing he. I don't know if he ever showed up or if he was in the final casting or if the network had to make that approval. That's usually what happens. But tell us how it happened, because magically you were Susan Olsen, I guess, had a couple little roles, and then this opportunity happens. So you don't really know what's your life is about to become here until it gets there. So can you kind of walk us through how it even started and how you
Yeah,
met?
yeah. But again, for me, it's, it's weird. My family's weird. I'm weird.
Okay.
Um,
But you got paid for being weird, so God bless you.
Not much.
Okay.
Very little. But I engaged a lot in magical thinking, and I tend to sound religious when, and actually as a child I was, but it's just always been belief in God, belief in prayer, belief in positive thinking, belief in whatever brand I'm listening to at the time. My grandmother was a firm believer in Norman Vincent Peale and the power of positive thinking. So I mean, she took credit. She said I. It started with my oldest brother, who was born in 1936, and when
Wow.
he was 5 years old, he was discovered on a street corner with my mother, waiting for the streetcar, and told him, this woman gave my mom her card and said, take this little boy to 20th Century Fox tomorrow. They're looking for a kid like him, and yada yada. And dad had a fit, said, no, you're not going. And mom said, oh please, just let me see the inside of a studio, it'd be fun. And of course my brother walks out with the role. And more weird stuff happened over the years. With each, then there was my next brother who ended up in a movie that you may be familiar with. Um, and it wasn't his first role by any means, but The Man Who Knew Too Much. He was
Oh,
directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
holy
He was
smoke.
the first person to record the song Que Sera Sera. He danced with Doris Day in the movie,
Holy
and,
smoke.
and loved Jimmy Stewart, who was fabulous person to work with. And then my sister, she did 3 pilots for TV shows that didn't end up as TV shows. And then I was the afterthought, and mom didn't want me in the business, but I got discovered in kindergarten. So it was this whole kismet thing with my grandmother going, I knew it. And so my mom, I have, all of us kids have incredible memories of our childhoods. All of in my family. Um, I told you we're weird. My I have a brother that remembers being born, but we won't go into that. I remember being 5 years old at the stop sign by my kindergarten, and mom saying, well, I never gave you a chance to do acting because I was sick of it by the time you came along, but now you have this opportunity. Um, do you want to do it? And I said, oh, yes, mommy, please, please give me an agent. I want to act. I want to work. So she did. And I was about six, maybe seven, no, 6 years old. I did a show called Julia, which starred Diane Carroll. And this is during, we had the Watts riots going on. There was all kinds of talk of racism. And I didn't have any Black friends because there weren't any Black kids in my neighborhood. And I desperately wanted a Black friend. So Mark Copage from the show Julia was my first Black friend.
Oh, there you go.
And we used to sit in the schoolroom feeling each other's hair. Um, and then Diane Carroll, who couldn't have been nicer, she was, oh gosh, and she had these eyes that you could drown.
No, she's a beautiful
These
woman. Yeah.
big, beautiful brown eyes.
Yeah.
And she brought me into her dressing room and she said, sweetheart, I know you're the only little girl on the set. There's only two boys to play with. If you ever want to get away, you can always come to my dressing room. And so, this is just this wonderful, sweet effort on her part to make me happy. And I'm looking around, I see all these posters advertising the show. And those two boys are in every poster. So after I came out to my mother, I said, why are Mark and Mike in every poster? And she goes, well, they're series regulars. They're on the show every week. You're a guest star. And I'm like, that's it. I want to be a series
I want
regular.
in.
Yes, I want a steady job. I'm 6.5. I should have a steady job. And she says, okay, when we get home, you call your agent. You let them know. And sure enough, I called the agent. And so, months pass. And I also did a couple of episodes of a show called Gunsmoke, which I'm sure you've heard of. Um, and I auditioned for a show called Nanny the Professor. Anyway, we're in Las Vegas vacationing, and we get a call from the agent saying, get back here. Susan has an audition for a series, to be a series regular. And we're like, really? Well, you don't really want to leave. And she said, oh, no, it's series regular. And so we did. It was 3 days after my birthday. And my first audition was with Sherwood Schwartz.
It was.
Yeah, the director, because Sherwood, in his genius, did not want to create characters. He wanted to find 6 interesting kids. And that's half of why the show worked. But we had John Rich, who was the director of our first 6 episodes. And he also directed every episode of All in the Family and the Dick Van Dyke Show. He was a genius. I'm so blessed to have ever worked with him. And then we had Jack Arnold, who had directed a lot of horror films that I knew about, and he was a co-producer. So I had these 3 nice guys. They sang happy birthday to me, and I thought, this is really great. Anyway, so my grandmother, who's praying all the time, comes to me and she says, you have the chance. You've been praying too hard. You not only have been praying to be a series regular, you have 3 opportunities. Gunsmoke, because they were going to add me and this little boy. They were going to have Festus get married. And I would have been a regular in that cast. We had that, have Nanny and the Professor, and the Brady Bunch. Now, it wouldn't hurt for, God's going to have whatever's best happen, but it wouldn't hurt for you to let him know which would be your favorite. And it was tough. And Nanny and the Professor, I did not want. There were only two boys in that show. Um, but Gunsmoke, it had horses.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about the horses. No hairless cats, but plenty of horses.
Yes, well, I horses were beyond
Yeah.
animals to me. They
Yeah,
were gods and goddesses.
right.
And but the Brady Bunch had five other kids, which the Brady Bunch would have been first choice easily because there would be five other kids to play
Yeah,
with.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
horses?
All right.
Eve Plum to this day says, I can't believe you chose the Brady Bunch over horses.
Wow.
I'm like,
Yeah.
see how much I love you guys?
Uh,
But anyway, that was the one I wanted, and that's the one that I ended up getting. So it was a
so did
lot
you?
of very magical thinking.
But yeah, did you? When your agent called though, uh, you went right into producer, which is rare, unless it was done differently back in the '60s. But that's usually that's the third, fourth callback before you ever get to the final guy. So did they just walk? Was it a cold read and they just gave you sides and here you
There
go?
was no sides. They didn't even have us audition. We never proved that we could act. In fact, Mike
Wow.
Lookinland hadn't really done anything except a couple of commercials.
Okay.
They wanted kids that they found to be interesting and appealing. Now, Sherwood Schwartz says, so this is why they conducted the auditions in this way, because usually you don't meet the producer until way down line. But, his opinion was what was going to create the characters.
Yeah.
And while Sherwood claims that he cast me the day that he met me, we still went through the cattle calls, which were trying to match kids up for who looks like who could be, who could be siblings. And there were two sets of kids, depending on whether there was a blonde mother and a brunette father,
Oh yeah.
or a brunette mother and a blonde father. So
Wow.
while he says I had the role, he was a very good storyteller. In his head, I had the role, but really, with everybody else involved, I didn't. So we went through auditions where we were just standing there in front of the camera. We never read a script until
So
we
they would
got
just
on the
ask you
silver pilot.
questions. They would just ask you
Yeah,
questions, try to get you to
yeah,
engage so they got a feel for your personality then? Is that what they were doing?
that was exactly what they were doing. I think, yeah, because Sherwood said that he was very interested in me because I was talking about show business and how in the episode of Gunsmoke I was supposed to be bitten by a rattlesnake. And of course, I'm lisping and spitting all over everybody. And I'm like, it wasn't a real snake, it was a fake snake. And they got the horse to rear up because he was trained to do that. And of course, I was already into special effects back
Right.
then. um, so that's what made him like me. And back then, they used to do a lot of auditions where all they did was talk to the kids to see what kind of personality they had.
Yeah. Well, I
And
remember hearing this story about
smart.
Jerry Mathers. I heard his story where it was the same thing where they just kind of talked to him, and he was like, I think he had Little League or Boy Scouts or something, and he came in for the audition. He's like, "Look, I want to go. I want to do." He didn't give a crap. I want to go. I want to go live my real boy life, and they was like, "That's what we want." We want a
Yeah,
kid that didn't come to act. He really wants to go live life.
right.
That's reality. We're dealing with an authentic person. Okay, so you come in there, grandma's, all over the place, believing that you're going to get this thing and encouraging you and praying, and you're saying me too, and so forth and so on. You talk a little bit at the time. You clearly were mature for your age, though, because
Yeah,
it sounds like you were
old
pretty.
soul.
Yeah, you kind of knew what you wanted and went for it and so forth. And that kind of discipline, I'm sure, helped secure your role too, because they could sense in you that this is somebody that can handle what's about to happen
Right.
because it was going to be hard. You got to have a certain amount of maturity to you, even though you're young, because
Yes.
you're about to shoot a sitcom and it's hard. And so,
Most successful child actors are like um, adults in
Yeah.
child costume.
There you go. So you go in, you're reading or you're talking, you're doing your little thing. How many callbacks were there?
I don't remember. Really don't remember. I remember that audition, and I remember the cattle call where they were just, pairing people up.
Yeah.
There must have been something else, but I only remember those two. And
So
it may be that that's all I have, because Sherwood knew that I was going to be the youngest in the blonde set of
I got you.
kids.
I got you. So how did you find out you booked it?
Oh, probably the agent called. Um, my agent was she and my mom were friends, and so she would say things like, "Look, Susan has the job. It's just a matter of formality." But I just lost a job that where they said, "Susan has the job. She's
Oh,
got it," and that was for an old TV show. You may not remember. I Daktari. Do you remember that? It was about a
oh yeah,
veterinarian.
yeah. I remember Dr.
Yeah, with
Ari.
Clarence the cross-eyed lion.
Yes.
Yes, well, okay, me suffering from Ellie Mae Clampett syndrome, because it's not just the horses, it's everything. It's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
animals, and it
Right.
still is.
Right.
Um, what a perfect role for me. It was before jumping the shark, but probably the beginning of adding a child to the show to help the ratings. So
Okay.
they were adding a little girl to Doctari, and according to everybody, I had it. So yay, great. And at the last minute, Marshall Thompson, the star of the show, said, "No, I do not want a pretty girl." I was flattered that he thought I was pretty. Um, and so he wanted another girl who wasn't pretty at the time, but she ended up being pretty. But then that was Erin Moran, who went on to Happy Days. But so she got the role, and I was devastated. And it wasn't until after we were doing Brady Bunch that my mother said, "Do you realize that if you had gotten Doctari, you wouldn't be on Brady Bunch,
Yeah.
because you wouldn't have been available to audition?"
Right.
And Doctari only lasted maybe a half a season or a season after that, and they filmed in uh, in Santa Clarita. It was really hot, and and now I live in Santa Clarita, but it's a thriving metropolis. But it used to just be
Yeah.
where all the animal rescues were.
Right, right, right. Well, but there you have it. I mean, isn't that true about life, though? Is that oftentimes things that we think are disasters are God's way of saying, wait a minute, you have no idea what I got coming around the corner. You really need to
Exactly.
relax a little bit and trust me. Now,
Exactly.
yeah,
Trust the plan.
yeah, but not everybody does, obviously, and we certainly don't control anything. Let's put it to that's for sure. So you get the gig, and this is just interesting to me as an actor, but I hope it's interesting to the people listening or watching too, because I don't think the insides of the machine is something that we're very familiar with. So you booked this thing, somebody, whoever it was, mom, agent, somebody said, "All right, you did it. You're on Brady Bunch." But it's a pilot. You don't
Yes.
know that it's going to become a series. You don't know that it's going to keep going, but at least you're in. So tell me, if you can recall, the day that you were going to the studio for day one, where I'm about to shoot a series pilot. What's it like? I mean, are you going there just nervous, like, oh my gosh, have you had a chance to go over the script by this point? How does that first day and you're meeting everybody and realizing, all right, guys, here we go. What's that? Tell me how that panned out.
Well, okay. First off, my my younger brother Chris refused to do television because he'd been in a movie with Alfred Hitchcock, so he thought TV was beneath him. By the way, sorry, the garbage trucks are here. Um, my oldest brother had done a series, a pilot called Rawhide Riley, where he got to be a cowboy. And I mean, he loved this thing so much. And when it didn't sell, he was so devastated he left acting.
Mm,
My sister had been through three pilots, And the third pilot did sell, but it was starring Ann Southern, and the sponsor asked her to lose 10 pounds, and she told them where to go, and end of that. So, and that made my sister really despondent. So she kind of left acting after that. So to me, getting a pilot meant nothing.
Okay.
So, if anything, it would be this big heartbreak. But I was hopeful, ever hopeful, and so the first day, the very first day was a table read of the script. So just getting everybody together, and I remember Maureen dancing, jumping up and down because we already knew each other from auditions, and meeting Eve, and so the three of us, we're going to be sisters, isn't this great? And then meeting the boys. I remember meeting Florence and thinking she was so beautiful, and then I remember looking at Bob Reed and saying to myself, good, he's really handsome. That will be good for ratings.
For ratings.
Yeah. And then I was already in awe of Ambi Davis because when I was 5, I had the Hong Kong flu. Um, and I was home from kindergarten for a whole week and I was watching reruns on TV. And I watched the Bob Cummings show. And she played Schultze on that show. And I recognized in her the same kind of comedy genius that I loved in I Love Lucy. You know, she
Yes.
was like one of those people. And
Yes.
so the fact that she was going to be on our show was just like,
Yeah.
wow. And it
Yeah.
was even funny during the table read. I was like, oh, this is so great.
Yeah. Isn't
So
that
then,
fun?
yeah.
I
And I
mean,
don't know if it was the next day or a few days later, but then when we arrived for our first day of actual filming, the big surprise was that they had dyed Mike Lookinland's hair black so that he'd be a brunette, but it was black. And it was a
oh,
temporary, it was a rinse. And so he was sweating and the sweat was black coming down. So that's my big memory of the first day of shooting. And it was Barry's birthday, I think.
oh,
He
nice.
turned 14 on that day.
Okay, so you do a table read. I mean, it is what it is. Now, I've been in a lot of feature films, but not in any never no television, frankly. As far as episodic or sitcom, I've never done any television. So I'm not only am I asking for the audience because they might find it interesting how the game works, but for myself too, because the first film I ever booked, and I only had like one line, and I've told the story before, but I didn't know what I was doing. The first time you get booked, you really don't know what you're doing, and you're scared that you're going to screw it up because, oh my gosh, I finally got a chance to do something. And I got on set, and I really was just flying by the seat of my pants. And you're kind of, who do I ask or do I ask? You know, because you hear stories, they'll just fire you because you don't know what you're doing or whatever. And thank God there were some day players there that also were just shooting that segment, and very nice guys that helped walk me through it. And I told them I don't know what it was. I said, well, no, you just do this, and oh, good, they were helping walk me through it. But my first scene that I ever did in my life was with James Caan because
Oh
that was
my.
the other actor. So I'm sitting here going, okay, you got to be
Oh
kidding me,
wow.
right? So you're going, I don't know what I'm doing. I finally booked something for the
And
first
he's
time in my
gotta
life.
know that.
And now I'm about to do a scene with the guy that was in The Godfather. This is ridiculous. I mean, it is so weird. And so that's why I related to your uh, Anne B. Davis, because that's the coolest thing. I can't say the coolest, but one of the things that is so cool about acting is when you're in a scene with an actor or actress that you grew up with going, I can't believe
Yeah.
I'm doing this, and this time I'm the one that's talking to him. This is
Yeah.
unbelievable. It's surreal, it's fun, it's exciting. If you like acting, not everybody can act, and nobody wants to. So you guys got in there, you did the thing, you filmed the pilot. How long does it take until they decide if they're picking it up?
Gosh, I would see we made that. I know we made it in October. And I think we were filming by summer. So somewhere in between probably early spring of 1969. So, I mean, I would say that there was probably a good 6 months in between filming the pilot and then actually filming the show. I don't remember the day, like when it was that
Yeah.
we found out that we were going to be shooting a show. But I remember my oldest brother calling me up. He goes, "Well, congratulations, Susan. You're the first of us kids, all four of us actor kids in the Olsen family, because you're the first one to get a series." And my other brother was in Vietnam,
Mm.
and we have a picture of me at the airport. That was back when you could go up, greet the people when they got off the plane. And I know what I'm saying to him. He's in his uniform, and I'm saying, "I got a theory and it fold." But this is the big, big, big news. Glad you're home from the war. Glad you're alive. But I got a theory.
All right. Well, now we have to talk about the lisp since you keep replicating it.
Oh,
So
it
was
was
that
real.
legit then? That was really the way you spoke? That
Oh,
was
yeah.
okay.
And
Well,
mom
that's cute.
claimed that all of her children had a lisp, maybe when they were toddlers, but they all got over it. And I was the only one that didn't get over it. And I was still working on it when I was 19 years old at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. I would go to a special S clinic to try to get my sibilance better, but I have a really small mouth.
Okay.
And my speech therapy teacher, Rocco Dalvera, said, "Susan, you've worked really hard. It's probably as good as it's going to get. You still have some sibilance, but it's not going to hold you back." And the funny thing is that later on, when I was auditioning, I had an audition where the woman said, "Well, we really like you, but this is going to be on videotape, and you still have a lisp. So, and that video is really going to pick up on that." And like the next day, or less than a week later, I had an audition where the person said, "Well, you're not right for the role." "Okay, honey, I love you too. You're not right for the role, but I just want to ask you, how did you get over your lisp? You've done so well." So it's like some people hear it, some people don't. I hear it if I'm doing radio. I always keep the headphones askew.
Yeah.
Usually when I'm doing a podcast on my iPhone, it comes through. It's like,
Well,
"Oh God, I
I
sound
mean,
drunk."
honestly, it was endearing. I mean, it was kind of not. It was kind of
Yeah, poor
for you to think.
child.
Yeah, for
And
your
they told my mother, "Don't try to get her over her list because it's so cute." My mom said, "Yeah, right. It's not going to be cute when she's 15.
yeah.
No, we're going to get her help for this."
Oh, well, it sounds like your parents were very grounded and
Oh yeah, very,
in
very,
trying
very.
to walk you through it and care about their child more than,
Yeah.
they weren't stage parents. It doesn't sound like that's great. Um, so let me ask you this as we just kind of wrap up a little bit about the Brady Bunch, and then I want to talk a little bit more about you. Um, but and I'm trying to think this through because I will always try to think of things perhaps that someone hasn't talked about before because I was thinking about this. The Brady Bunch started, I think, around 69 and it ended 74. So we're talking about a series that stopped filming 50 years ago.
Mhm.
And yet, you can't, get away from it. And again, and not that you're trying to, but I mean, I'm just saying that's how enduring this thing was, and I don't think that should be anything to apologize for. There must be something good about that if it's if it's still here and it still interests people. Um, one of the most iconic parts of that series was the opening.
Yeah.
Everybody
We were the
has,
first to use Zoom.
oh, okay, okay. So
We were
they,
so
that
ahead of our time.
Okay, well, that's interesting. But the whole idea of just the way they brought the cast on in the opening sequence, and they made a catchy song that everybody knows, to goes with it. And it's been um, uh, lampooned, that thing, and many other things over the years. And anytime somebody uses that sequence, clearly, oh, you're doing a Brady Bunch thing because that's you guys started it. How was that shot? Did you sit down and just they say, look here, look there, look, and then
Yes,
so
exactly.
how did it? They just you literally just okay, look to the left, look
Yeah.
up, look down.
Yeah.
All right, thank
Now,
you.
now you're looking at your mom. Look up. Now you look at Bobby. Now look at and everybody had a name.
Oh,
Like they had, like light stands or microphone stands, whatever, with different characters' names on them.
so you knew who you were looking at in their sight
Yes,
lines.
exactly.
Okay, and you refilmed that every time, right? Each year, didn't you have to?
There's three, I think.
Okay.
I think there's three versions. I know the middle one, the one like the third season, I look really confused at the end. I think it's on the end credits too. Um, and my brother used to tease me for it. He goes, look, it's Susan with the goo goo googly eyes. Because I wasn't really sure where to look. And of course, I had an Ed Wood attitude. I knew I didn't do well, but they said, cut, print. Oh, good. I can leave.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you weren't worried about it. All right, nice.
There's a couple of times like that in the show where it's like, oh, look what I did there. And I knew I did it, but I didn't want to do it again.
Well, and that's up to them to catch that. If they were happy, then that's their business.
Right.
Um, well, do you know who you beat out for the role?
Everybody. I
I
mean,
mean,
everybody in Hollywood auditioned.
do you know
Probably
any?
Jodie Foster. I'm sure Jodie was there. I know Anissa Jones from Family Affair was there because she was there during one of the what we call cattle call, where everybody just lined up. Um, and I had already worked with her.
Hmm.
And I didn't like her because she stepped on my foot.
Well, and talk about
She
a
got the role. I was supposed to sing and dance with Elvis.
really.
And at the last minute, they decided that maybe because I was just like freshly 6 years old, that I might be a little too young to handle dialogue and singing and dancing. So they hired Anissa, who who was even like more amazingly young looking. She was quite a bit older than she was playing on Family Affair.
Hmm.
And I, believe me, I always liked her. I was a fan of hers. That's why I wore my hair the way I did in Brady Bunch. It was to look like Buffy on Family Affair. But I was a
Really?
little miffed that she got the role. But they still had me sing a song in this Elvis movie because the director, Peter Tewksbury, liked me so much. He wanted me to do something. But
Which movie was that?
it was
Which one?
called it was originally titled Chautauqua, but it was renamed The Trouble with Girls, and it's one that actually got good reviews. And you can also see Danny Bonaducci, pre Partridge Family. He plays a boy. He plays a one man band. We're all auditioning. The Chautauqua was like an amateur hour that would go around the country picking up talent. And so I was supposed to be not very, very good, but they didn't tell me that. They only played the song for me once.
Hmm.
And so I kept screwing up the words. And they wanted me to screw up. And Peter's going, no, no, it's okay. Keep going. But every time I screwed up, I went, cut. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I need to try that.
Well, talk about a tragedy, though. When you talk about it, was it Anissa?
Yeah,
I
Anissa.
mean, my
We
God.
called her Anissa. I think everybody now says Anessa, but I'm certain that her mother called her Anissa.
But, and I'm not really trying to go this route, but why not? Because it probably matters. Is that it kind of full circle from the idea of the child star and the
Mm-hmm.
potential drawbacks that can meet. But this poor girl, holy smoke, lost it. But then again, I heard, and I'm not going to presume because you never know what's real and what is tabloid. But I'd heard that Maureen, who was your actor friend, and had some struggles after the series with some addiction stuff and what I guess. And I don't know if that's legit, but hope not.
Yes, she did.
Okay, so I don't want to talk out of school, but my point is, there is a dynamic to it. Now, that doesn't mean that an adult actor can't also go sideways, clearly, but I just wonder if there is a very deeply potential problem. I don't even know what the term would be with fame in general. It is such an evil potential drug,
Hmm.
potentially. I used to tell people like, I don't want to be famous. I want to be popular. And what I meant by that was I want people to know my work because it's how I make a living. So I want them to know me and want to see me so I'm popular. But fame, I'm not necessarily after because it just seems so nefarious.
Subjectifying.
Yeah,
It doesn't ring true.
but not only does it not ring true, Susan, it does something to your soul.
Yes.
If you buy into it, if you accept the press, and how do you not when you're an 8-year-old girl and everybody said you are the greatest
But
human?
nobody did.
Okay,
Nobody did. We got horrible reviews. I mean, the show was not respected at all, and it's much easier to go through this before puberty.
hmm,
Much easier because you're not that concerned about who you are.
okay,
Um, and I mean, I feel a lot more compassion for Maureen and Barry, who were just beginning to think of themselves as love interests. I mean, Barry was kind of a teen idol.
yeah,
I mean, that's so much harder to deal with. Mike looking at it because we went on concert tour, and people would be screaming, and Mike and I would just be like, "They're screaming for us.
yeah,
Can they not hear?"
yeah, yeah.
Um, so you have wisdom when you're a child. Also, people would assume that you go to school and you're the most popular kid. No. And
Jealousy.
we all went to regular public school. We did not go to private schools until the last season when we needed to have a cooperative school because we would spend our summer um, going on concert tour. But otherwise, I would go back to regular public school and no, I mean the kids are there to smack you down, and I
Yeah,
got
well, they
treated
had to be jealous.
mercilessly.
They
Yeah,
had
but
to be jealous of you. That's impossible.
total jealousy, and that makes it feel a little better. It's like, okay, it's not because I have a hair lip, it's because they're jealous, and I don't blame them for being jealous, but it's still really embarrassing. And thank God my core group of friends were always there to defend me.
Hmm.
But sometimes it's like, oh, it's a drag to be around Susan because people start coming around and messing with us. So and I would say that so the inverse of what people would think, say with somebody like Anissa, um, it's not having all this fame and then suddenly it's gone. I, I can't say because I didn't know her very well, but I would lay bets that it was more about self-loathing
Hmm.
because you feel like an object, you feel objectified, and there's people trying to be your friend. I mean, if you, I was blessed with a whole lot of wisdom. I always knew when a kid wanted to be my friend because they wanted to bring me home and show the neighbors that they know Cindy Brady. I was never fooled by people's false pretenses, but there is this self-loathing thing about looking at yourself and who you were on TV, and like I used to come home, my mom would be watching the reruns, and I'm like, how is any guy ever going to want to date me? There's no way. So. just might as well forget about it.
Well, so you made it through obviously the series, and then they had these tours and they did the variety show, and yeah, you could say okay, it didn't work, but the truth is there was still a lot of clearly they thought there was a lot of value to this brand because they kept being able to sell tickets to it and people showed up. That means it worked. If nobody showed, that'd be a little sign, but they did. I will say I have seen clips of the variety show and it's hard to watch.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that go, I didn't know this was real. I thought this was a bad dream I had.
Like a parody or something that you guys are putting on. Well, let me ask you this though. So here you are, and I don't mean this pejoratively, but just as a placeholder for what we've been discussing. So here you are stuck in Cindy Brady forever. I mean, you are. Uh, Tell me about the cringiest thing or things that have stories that have happened to you in people trying to connect to you as Cindy Brady because they don't know what to do. I mean, does everybody come up singing, here's the story? Or, I mean, do you have certain things that are just, oh, is this ever going to end? Is there certain particular things they try to connect to you for that's like, oh, please stop?
Well, it was all cringy when I was young.
Yeah.
All of it. Especially if I was out with friends and then somebody's coming out wanting an autograph. It's like, no, because it's like, don't let the two worlds collide. Don't let the streams cross. Ghostbusters. My celebrity world, my acting world is one thing, and my real life is another. And so, I'd be out with friends and somebody would recognize me and come over for an autograph. It's like, no, no, no. I've been cultivating these friendships and it's like they don't even know I was on a TV show. Please don't remind
How
them.
could anybody your age in the 70s not know who you were?
Because they got to know me and I was so different from Cindy.
Oh, so you're saying they became friends with Susan?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
I
And
see.
then just like I I mean, it's happened so many times that person will look at me and go, "Oh, that's so weird. I don't even think of you as being that girl
Yeah.
anymore. Not at all." And so, remember being at McDonald's and somebody came over with their kid and wanted autographs. And my friends were laughing so hard. And uh, my best friend goes, Guy, I forget. I forget about that. And I'm like, well, please keep forgetting about that, please.
Now, are you
And of
still
course, I
now
had
are
to be
you
nice and gracious.
now are you still as recognized on the street? I mean, just is it still that common, or is it not quite, or to be like, hey, you look familiar? I mean, is it one of those things, or
I don't know so much now. In my 30s, it was ridiculous. My cousin and I were living together, and we'd be walking somewhere, and I'd get recognized, and he's like, if I saw somebody I thought I went to high school with,
yeah,
first I would ask, "Are you so and so?" But instead, people just come up to you and go, "Hey, I love the show,"
yeah,
or "Baby talk, baby talk." And I'd be in fast food, and they got the little camera. I'd order my stuff, and then get up to where I'd pick it up, and they'd hand me my food and go, "Love the show, Cindy Brady." Um, I don't think it's so much now. I don't know. I really don't know, but an awful lot of it is something really good. People just have this nice warm feeling and they don't know why. They have this chummy feeling like we grew up together. And
mm.
that's fine. That's great.
Well, and that's what I learned. And again, I'm not comparing myself to you as far as fame goes, but in my own little world, my own little subculture as a comic, and I'm very unique. John Rich um, from Big and Rich. I'm in Nashville, so he was a fan, but he's a conservative, and so am I. And I'm a Christian, and so is he. And so I have a very specific niche as a comic. Now, I started out in nightclubs, by the way, so it wasn't like I was just some religious comic. I just happened to be a Christian and happened to do comedy and happened to do it here. And I just began to become more focused on bringing that piece of the puzzle to my stage because I felt it was important. But um, the folks that are fans of you, you know, they see you as whatever it is that you meant to them. And I always felt like I owed them that. Like if somebody came up to me, oh my gosh, my family used to sit around watch your videos and blah blah blah. Oh, thank you. I'm glad I brought laughter. I mean, I truly am humbled because if you spent time and paid a babysitter and left and came to see me and paid money, I'm humbled by it. It's like, man,
Yeah, sure.
thank you. I thank you that that mattered to you because I wanted you to like it, and I'm glad you do. But I'm still amazed that you took a 3 hour trip to come see
Mhm.
me. I really can't believe because I will never not. To me, I'll never not just be me, a regular guy who tried to learn how to do comedy and figured it out. So I don't see it as exotic as the people that watch me and see me on, and I've been in films and so forth. And like I said, I'm always more amazed by the actors that I was impressed by, that I happen to have been able to do a show with, certainly than me, but grateful that I've been given, you know, the opportunities to do the things that I have. Everything I ever wanted to do, Susan, I did. Uh, I not to the level I hoped I would. Like I wanted to be an actor, a famous actor, and I've been in 20 something films. Not famous, but I've been in some films. I got a SAG card. I wanted to be a professional comedian. I've got 7 albums worth. I wanted to be a professional magician. I was a close-up magician in Southern California for a number of years doing table hopping. I've written 2 books. I've done so everything I kind of ever wanted to do in my life, I've done. It just wasn't at the level that I maybe expected. And it wasn't maybe from the angle that I suspected. When I started bringing my worldview into my comedy, it changed everything because I was standing for something specific that mattered to me. And I guess that's where we're heading right now, uh, with you, Susan, is how I first stumbled upon you, and it was you and Cherie talking. I don't know if she was interviewing you or if you guys had your own show. I don't remember. I just remember seeing it and being so intrigued that you seemed. I don't know this, so I'm going to ask you. I don't, it seemed like maybe you were more conservative, maybe not, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole you, but you certainly seemed to stand for a particular thing and a particular point of view that you weren't going to be bullied out of. I happen to think like this, and this is how I see the world. I also notice you have a Trump flag there behind you,
Gotcha.
which does not endear you necessarily with the Hollywood community. Not that you give a crap because you've moved on,
No, it's like
but
I have leprosy.
yeah, but okay. So you are in the you were in the jaws of the beast, man. You were there. You did the real thing, and you were young, and that was a long time ago. But nevertheless, I'm sure you have friends still in the business. I'm sure
Mhm.
you have acquaintances and so forth. Um, and I'm guessing, and again, I don't know, that some of your castmates are probably more left leaning. I'm going to guess. I could be wrong, but explain to me why I say left, not liberal, because frankly, I don't mind liberals. If it's old school liberals, I love them
But
because
I am a classic liberal.
okay, well, them I like because they let you disagree without
Hmm. There's nothing
canceling you.
liberal about the current illiberals.
Yeah, and that's where and Dennis Prager, I don't know if you ever listened to him,
Oh, yeah.
but I love Dennis. But he was the one that really differentiated between liberal, which became a catchphrase for everybody, you know, that was Democrat or whatever. And that wasn't the reality. The problem in America, the problem in Western culture is not liberals, it's the left. If you are a leftist, that's a problem because that's
Yeah.
Marxism and that is real dangerous and it's legit. But these people have convinced themselves that they're the good guys
Oh, yeah.
and and I understand because if you are whatever you believe, you think you're right. So that's not a problem. I'm glad that you stand for something and you're not going to be pushed aside just because somebody disagrees with you. So that's a noble thing, to stand for what you believe and not be uh, uh, kicked aside because you face resistance. What isn't noble is when you also get to choose what other people are and call them, oh, you're that, you're a Nazi. Oh, you're that, you're a phobic. Oh, you're that, you're hateful. It's like, wait a minute. You don't get to choose for me who I am and at least not be able to prove it. That's called slander. You're not allowed to make crap up that isn't true to harm my reputation and my ability to make a living and engage in society without a detriment by a lie. So
Yeah. Yeah.
explain to me if how in whatever however you want to, because I'm not trying to go back to something that happened to you like in 16 or something, but nevertheless, it's important because it's about America and being free to disagree with each other. So what has happened to, or what do you see in the people that you engage in, especially if they're in the industry, in their deep rooted intolerance, all the while thinking they're the good guys? What in the heck is that dynamic?
Well, I would have to get into. I became political, and even I had a political podcast. Partly because when I did my first radio show, and that was probably the largest audience I ever had. Um, it was here at KLSX in Los Angeles. So here I am, my first actual radio job, and I'm in the second biggest market in the country. And it was me and Ken Ober, who's we were partners on the show, and we were following Howard Stern. So that was a pretty big deal. And we were not allowed to talk any politics. We weren't allowed to have guests. They were trying to do something really new and innovative. And it's kind of like being in a car company that says, no, we're going to do something so innovative. No, you can't have wheels on the car because everybody has wheels. We want something innovative. Okay, well, what do you want instead of wheels? And they had no answer. So
Yeah.
it's like we couldn't do any of the things that you do on talk radio because that's done on AM. But yeah, it was just they didn't have any other answers. It's like, well, come on, let us have guests. It was all like be Seinfeld, have a show about nothing, and Stern was the role model, and at the time I adored him. Um, and he opened up radio as something far more creative than I had ever imagined, and something that I truly wanted to do. And again, magical thinking. I wanted to do radio, and I end up in this position of following Stern. But so anyway, I wasn't political then, and we couldn't have political guests. So I guess there was an urge in me to talk about real subjects, real topics, and anyway, I didn't get political until about. I mean, it's started. I always had a sense of justice and a sense of what's fair and what isn't fair, and I became political probably 2007, 2010. Anyway, so I
Well,
made
when you say
statements.
political, you mean just more aware, or did you start standing on a particular point of view and decide I'm going to be more demonstrative about it?
Both, yes, both. Because as I became more aware, I felt like I needed to warn people.
Okay.
I needed to make statements, and it isn't necessarily the. I don't even know if I want to. Hmm. What what I see more clearly now is what I suspected, and everything is just becoming more and more obvious to me. But because there was a time when I remember my sister and I talking, and she said, "Yeah, I'm more likely to vote Democrat than Republican," and I had already left the Republican Party in 2003 because I just couldn't stomach W. And I'm a proud party pooper. Um, And I said, yeah, it's just as easy for me to, I'll go back and forth. I'm not going to sit in the middle, but sometimes I'm on the right for this, sometimes I'm on the left for that. And I said, but I'm smelling something changing in the left. And so slowly it has changed. It's everything we were warned about. The Frankfurt School, cultural Marxism, all of those conspiracies are obviously true. And
Mm.
so the way I see it, and I could be wrong, and I'm okay if I'm wrong, but this is my reality. The Democrat Party is no longer democratic in the least. It was taken over by the communists. And by the way, the whole McCarthy period, that's not understood like it should be. And my parents were around and had famous actor friends at the time who said, come with us to a communist meeting. They're like,
No, it was legit. He was actually
yes,
onto something.
it was, and it never stopped.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the entertainment industry was infiltrated by communists,
Yeah.
and it still is.
Yeah. Well, they don't
Um,
know that though. They call it woke now. They call it progressive. They always give
mhm.
it terms that make them sound virtuous because they don't have that. And I know that that can sound um pejorative, like it's an easy swipe just to put down the guy you disagree with. And one of the things that my show really does want to do is bring on people with different points of view and see if we can agree to disagree agreeably, because America has got to figure out how to disagree and not hate each other. We have to figure that out because we can't keep just despising and making enemies out of those we disagree with. I'm a Christian, so I use biblical references. The house divided falls. We
Yeah,
have to have in certain essentials, Susan, not in everything do we have to agree, but there has to be essentials we have to agree on. We have to have a sovereign nation with a sovereign border. We have to have a language we all understand. We have to have a constitution that doesn't deviate from its original intent and is a living, breathing document, because then it's going to be
oh,
manipulated by people with an
yeah,
attitude. It has to have, we have to be proud of who we are. Yes, talk about everything bad that happened. Of course, talk about slavery. We had slavery. But if we do,
bad.
talk about the fact that we stopped it in the British before us, before anybody else. Talk about the fact that of the
Yes,
300,000 slaves that came to the United States, and 1.3 million went to Brazil. Talk about the fact that black slave, black kings caught other black tribes and sold them as a profit. Talk about everything if you want to talk about
yes,
history, but don't, and certainly don't sit here and tell me, call something whiteness
yeah,
instead of which is a deeply racist perspective, and act like you're open-minded and a kind, good-hearted, helping the marginalized. You don't get to be a racist and decide you're the good guy. It works on both sides of the aisle, and that is the thing that has to be rediscovered. And that's why you were interesting to me, because not only because you were Cindy Brady and I got to grow up watching you, but because you're a human being who refused to be uh, categorized by others. You said, I am me. I will tell you who I am. You don't have to like it, but you're not going to define me. I am I have an autonomous human being with my own perspective. But I don't know if it's obviously, like I said, it's caricature, or a stereotype when one looks at Hollywood and say, "Oh, you all think like this," because they don't. Obviously, there is
no, but most of them do.
most of them do, and
The
so you
actors are herd animals.
yes, right. Well, and they're and but here's the thing, and I wonder if and I want to get your thoughts on this. I wonder if this dynamic is true. I made a joke about this years ago because I'm a comic. I said, but actors make a living pretending to be somebody else. So, in their world, it's called acting. In our world, it's called schizophrenia.
Yeah,
So when the only way you find um, when the only way you find yourself or feel good about yourself or feel that you've landed is when you pretend to be somebody else who writes your words for you and creates a character for you. There's something off about that. I'm not saying taking away their skill set, by the way. I'm not saying
Right,
that they're
right.
not wonderful at what they do. But if that's your identity is based on somebody else telling you that you get to be a hero now and you get to be the one that does the hard thing today, and I'm the one that exposes the guy today, but it's all an act.
Mhm.
They take that into reality and pretend like that's how it works. I get to pretend that something is the way it is, and it is true. And that utopia version of uh, of of how humans should interact by saying, "Well, listen, we care about the poor people, so hey, let people just come in and not have to come in the right way." That isn't helping people. That's creating
No, no.
chaos.
But
So,
they can't see beyond their face.
but do you think there's something to, and maybe this is a little, maybe I'm just making this up, but I wonder if there's something about people
See?
whose life is based on pretend
Yes, there
that
is.
becomes real, that they take that into real life and think I can pretend that if I chop off the genitals of a 5-year-old that that's good, and somehow I don't see it. It's like, talk about a cult, holy crap. But it's got
Yeah.
real ramifications that really matter and can't be discarded like it doesn't have consequences. So I'm going to let you take the floor, but do you think there's something weird about the dynamic of how an actor can't get outside of themselves to become real and stand for something that's real as opposed to the perspective that they're creating in their head? Does that make sense, or am I just
Oh,
making something?
no, it makes total sense. And I can't wait to dig into this
Well, jump
because I
in.
do teach acting.
Okay, good.
Say those who can't teach.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right. Well, folks, I can't believe it. I just talked to Cindy Brady for 2.5 hours. I talked to someone that I used to watch on television. Um, she was the little girl. I probably was
the
more,
youngest one. They used to
yeah,
bother me. Now I'm
yeah,
happy about it.
yeah. I was probably more the other girl, the middle girl's man, I for blanking her name, but I was her. Yeah,
Jan.
Jan. Okay, I was probably Jan. But anyways, but it was so cool to see you and to hear you and to talk about it and get to know your heart a little bit. And I just appreciate what you stand for. You do have an important voice because you have a bio that has some weight to it. I mean, you were part of this
Right.
iconic story, and it matters. So leverage it, use it. God bless you.
Well, thank you.
And
Because I often think, because well, who cares what a celebrity thinks?
yeah,
But I do represent
you do.
this nuclear family,
Yeah,
this ideal family,
yeah,
and it truly is everything that they are trying to destroy. And believe me, if the Dems get in power again and they don't reform or go in a
yeah.
different direction, I mean, if Kamala had won, absolutely, Brady Bunch would not be on the air
Right.
simply because it shows a standard of living that's no longer
Right.
achievable.
Well, and it's too hateful and intolerant because it demands a particular way that a family is supposed to exist. A family, by the way, that was God's way of creating civilization. A man and a woman
Yeah.
creating a new human and giving the best of masculinity and femininity to a human to make a better neighbor and a better citizen for the next generation. That's what the family was for. And by the way, it allowed a self governance so that the federal government doesn't have to worry about you because your family treats you right and they teach you how to do the right thing and how to be the right person. And your family clearly did. You made that very clear. And so God bless your parents. I don't know if they're still alive, but if they are,
No,
okay,
I'm gone. Yeah.
well, look what they left behind, though. Somebody that did a wonderful thing. And folks, as you know, I try to bring on interesting people, and this really was an exciting thing for me to bring
Oh,
on.
thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And
And Bellatrix, she had a good time too.
there you have. Well, I was
Yeah.
hoping because I really, to me, there is a lost demographic in my podcast, and that is the hairless cat. So who knows? I might be able to.
Yeah. You know,
tap
you
into a
had
whole.
another one. She's just too shy to get on camera.
Okay, well, listen, she
The
needs to.
trend is growing.
Well, I hope she has money because they do need to subscribe so that they can get on. But anyways, folks, remember, if they ever say you're being politically incorrect, I always say thank you for the compliment because nothing is better than standing against tyranny, certainly against the Frankfurt School and Marxism in general. You have to stand for freedom and autonomy and agency that created the West, created America. And for us to remain this way, we have to stand alone if necessary to
Yep.
stand for what is true. Folks, remember, I'm just doing what I do, and that is putting the woke back to sleep. See you next.